Hello, Carnivore Nation. It's Dutch Masters from Carnivore Trading. That's carnivoretrading.com. Today's video is entitled A Word of Encouragement. There are a lot of pundits out there that are predicting some pretty dire things: the crash of our currency, the crash of our economy, a entering into something that they're calling the fourth turning, which is a historical prediction of cycles based on history, where societies start, off and have a high period, and then the fourth turning is after it goes through the various cycles. The fourth turning is an era of destruction, usually involves a war or some kind of revolution. Institutional life as we know it is destroyed and then rebuilt in response to what would be a perceived threat to our society. We've seen the pandemic and what our powers that be have done with the pandemic. We've seen the current administration take us from an era of peace to one where we are on the brink of war. Policies relating to nuclear war have been changed under Biden, where he originally we had a policy where we would not use nuclear war against an adversary unless we felt that one was being used against us. And Biden changed that early on to say that we might use nuclear war if certain things take place, like chemical weapons are being used and things like that, or even large scale bombings and things like that. So that really changed the landscape of our world and made it a much more dangerous place, in my opinion. It seems like the Ukrainian war is one that was kind of ginned up and almost approved by the Biden administration. Because they seem to be, people in power seem to feel that this fourth turning can be pushed, and that the revolution that takes place and the war that takes place can destroy our institutional way of life, and that they can rebuild it in a way that they would like to rebuild it, and of course be in total control and power and develop much more wealth that way. So we see a lot of things happening that actually align with this fourth turning prediction. And what I wanted to do today is say that from an investment standpoint, the people who have been predicting the crash of the market and the crash of the economy and the crash of our currency, and people in the streets and a new depression taking place. Every once in a while those guys are right, but 95% of the time those guys are wrong. And so investing with that in mind and with that as your mantra means that you're going to be wrong most of the time. The other thing that the fourth turning doesn't take into account is what I would call the, out of the blue guy or the out of the blue woman. The reality is that someone can come to the forefront very quickly, almost from sort of behind the barn. You don't see them coming, and all of a sudden, that person can make some substantial and amazing changes that right the ship, and you don't go down in the storm. You actually ride the wave back to a place of peace and prosperity. And I wanted to say that I think that person is coming. I know who I think I know who that person is. And in the political life, we have an opportunity to get behind somebody who's not only pulling the MAGA Republicans, as they call them, from the left, who are a little bit timid about voting for Trump again, and also appeal to what used to be the moderate Democrat, which has been sort of hijacked by the left-wing crazies out there. So I think if you can, and also, by the way, and not to be overlooked at all, the young people. Now, I have many children, and they're all 30 years and younger. Some of them that I've talked to have told me they don't like war. They are tired of war. They don't see the point in war. They don't like uncertainty and volatility. They see a lot of things that aren't being run rationally, and it bothers them. So I think that someone can come to the forefront and also speak their language. And that is a very, very powerful force of humans, because they are taking over for the boomers, the millennials, the 25 to 40-year-olds that are now coming up and taking over for the boomers who are retiring, but are still active in politics and the economy and in business. The new force is the most powerful force. And these young people are very, very tired of what they see. They're tired of lies. They're tired of the mainstream media not telling the truth anymore or suppressing the truth. So the bottom line is, I want to say that we at Carnivore are investing with a positive outlook for the future. We may be cautious from time to time, and in 2022, we saw that we were heading into quite a downfall for the market, and we used inverse ETFs to make money off of that. We now are looking at the market and saying, I think it's a sideways market here. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of disaster speaking out there. And those guys are getting a lot of press, and they've got lots and lots of podcasts on YouTube. But they could be very wrong. And usually when the pace and the volume goes way, way up for the disaster guys, you're getting close to kind of a bottom. And I think what we have here is this choppy market, this market that is extremely volatile, both in stocks and in bonds and in currencies. It's indicative of a market that's bottoming and trying to find its way. It's not necessarily indicative of a market that's about to crash. We're seeing that the S&P 500 is holding up pretty well. We're seeing that the NASDAQ is actually on the verge of breaking out of this pattern to the upside. And it's very encouraging that over 25% of the S&P 500 is technology stocks. And the technology stocks have done a lot of hard work, okay? They've got blasted after the rise in 2020 and 2021. 2022 took them apart. I mean, some of these great stocks were down 60, 70, 80, 90%. And these are companies that have survived, and they've laid off people at the mega caps. Okay, you've got the Facebooks, the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Googles. These guys have laid off a lot of people. So we actually can see maybe a slingshot coming in the technology shares. Now think about what that does. If they actually are in this bottoming process and have started to run up, and if they do break out to the upside, that means they will take the S&P 500 and the Dow with them. Those will follow because of their market cap weight. So we see some opportunities there. We also see that there is a possibility that the fourth turning disaster predictions are thwarted by a person who comes from left field that nobody's really paying attention to at this moment in time, but who speaks the language of the young people, who speaks the language of the formerly moderate Democrats, and that speaks the language of an awful lot of Republicans who want, a peaceful, prosperous, and stable world. So this word of encouragement is that we invest with that in mind. We invest day to day, knowing that it's very unlikely that even if we do have crises like the banking crisis here and things like that, that America's not going to go down. We may have choppy times ahead, but I think we're coming to the end of, in the markets, this period of malaise, and we may have some disasters that come along. We may have a few things take place that seem pretty dramatic, but we're encouraged by what we see happening in the market. We're encouraged by how much money is on the sidelines, which means that that can come into the market and also drive the market. We've never had this much cash sitting on the sidelines. So we prefer to invest with the 95% of the time, which is when the market actually figures things out and goes up. And that's our message for you today. I hope you take it to heart, and I hope you join us at carnivoretrading.com. Get your 14-day free trial. Subscribe to this channel. We'll be back to you soon.